All right, good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. I'm going to give this just one more minute here. There's quite a few people still waiting, still joining us here. We had over 700 people register for this webinar here today, so I expect a fair amount of those folks to join us. And I'm sitting here watching the numbers grow as I speak here. So I'm going to give it another minute here to get folks to join on here. Looks like everyone has found the chat panel. Looks like a lot of people are saying good morning. So good morning to everyone. And I'm going to give it till 11:02 here, and then I'm going to start our presentation. So I just launched a quick poll here for anyone, just asking if you're an EquatIO customer or not, just try to get a gauge on who we have in our setting here today. And I appreciate the responses that are coming in so far, so thank you very much. All right, well, you know what? We're going to get started here. I see that people are still joining, but we're going to get started anyways. So good morning, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jeff Greaves. I'm one of the regional sales directors here for TextHelp. I am very excited to share with you all over the next hour how we can all say goodbye to Worksheets and hello to Mathspace. I would like to take a moment and introduce a couple of our other text helpers that are going to be joining us here today. First, let me introduce to you Louis Shanafelt, who is our EquatIO Product Manager. Louis comes to us after spending 20 years in a large urban district as a teacher and as an administrator. Louis has taught at the elementary level, secondary mathematics. He has delivered many hours of professional development to thousands of teachers on instructional best practices using technology. Louis has also spent countless hours building online learning modules as an instructional designer. And we here at TextHelp are very excited to have Louis as a contributing member of our TextHelp family. I am very excited to hear what Louis has to share with us all today on the benefits of using EquatIO Mathspace with your students. Also joining us this morning is Justin Rodriguez. He's one of our territory sales directors here at TextHelp. Justin is one of the company's go-to persons when it comes to EquatIO. Justin covers the states of Pennsylvania and Delaware, and he'll be assisting me on answering any questions that you all may have. So before we get started, I do have a couple of housekeeping items to share with you all. First of all, this webinar will be recorded. It'll also be shared back with you. The one thing that I would mention is just be sure to check your email or your spam folder in the coming days for the recording. I don't recall how long it's going to take for you to get it, but it should be within the day or so. Everyone on this call is muted. They're in listen-only mode, but on the GoToWebinar panel, you should see a section labeled questions. I see some people have already seen that as they've answered with a nice good morning. And you can all go in there and ask any questions by just typing in your question there. And with just a large number of people that are on this call, we're going to do our best to try to get all of these questions answered for you. So for today's agenda, I'm going to start off with just a quick recap pertaining to some learning are facing in the ongoing pandemic, as well as some challenges that the districts are facing. I'm then going to turn it over to Louis as he'll demo how schools can move away from the old paper and pencil worksheets and into a digital environment, and share with you how Mathspace can not only help your teachers and students, but maybe even have some fun while doing it. And then finally, I'll wrap up with any last-minute questions and answers. And if everything goes according to plan, we should be done just in time for you all to take a break or have some lunch. So I'd like to start off here with a couple of articles that I found. The NWEA predicted that students started this school year having lost roughly a third of their a third of the year in reading and half a year in math. And another company, Credo, which is an education research organization, They recently projected that the average student lost between 136 and 230 days of learning in math, and this was state dependent. McKinsey, which is a consulting firm, predicted by the fall of 2021, students will have lost 3 months to a year of learning, and depending on the quality of their remote instruction. Now, the one thing to keep in mind here is that this is all really in the absence of any actual data, which is now just starting to emerge from diagnostics exams. So as you listen and watch today's demo on EquatIO Mathspace, I want you to give some thought to some of the questions that I have on the screen now. I'm not going to cover all of these in the interest of time, but I will touch upon a few of them. Our goal today is for you to come away from this presentation with the knowledge that EquatIO can help solve many of the challenges that districts are facing when it comes to supporting students in math and STEM, as well as making teachers' jobs easier and the ability to assess students' progress in math, STEM, and even when they're not in the classroom. Over the past 12 months, I've presented schools, staff, students, parents with challenges that no one ever saw coming. Some were better prepared than others, but most, if not all, have had their own challenges to overcome. I myself, being a parent of a 9th grader and a 7th grader with a learning disability, I know the challenges of keeping my children focused on schoolwork as they learn from home. I can only imagine the challenges that the teachers are facing as they're trying to keep the students engaged while doing it all remotely. In a recent article from the Education Week, which was dated December 2020, a handful of studies conducted since last spring have used data from millions of students participating in computer adaptive tests, such as the Northwest Evaluation Association's MAP growth test and the Illuminate Education's FastBridge assessment. And they estimate that students' learning growth during school closures last spring compared to the prior years, and project how much rate of the growth is to slow during this academic year. So the studies vary in how severe they gauge the so-called COVID slide, but all of them found on average that students would lose more ground in math than in reading. 3 of the studies based on the NWEA data predicted students could learn half or up to a full year less in math this academic year compared to what they would learn in a typical year. Study based on the FastBridge test data showed similar, but still the troubling learning loss across every grade, 2.5 to 4.5 months of learning loss compared to only a month in reading. Now, math can be more sensitive to pandemic-related schooling disruptions for a few reasons. One, unlike reading, math is almost always formally learned at school. Parents are a little less equipped to help their children with math at a time when parent support can be even more critical to student progress. Broader stresses on trauma related to the pandemic may worsen existing math anxiety in some students, and math anxiety can cause stress for students while in the classroom. And it can also be very challenging for teachers to engage in effective math instruction practices via remote platforms. The article goes on to say that teachers will need to get creative to make sense of the mathematical concepts and find ways for students to show their work. And so, having said that, this is the perfect time for me to hand things over to Louis and have him share with us how Mathspace for EquatIO can help answer these questions, as well as provide teachers with a way to be creative, engage their students, and have their students show that they understand the concepts that are being taught. So Louis, I'm going to turn this over to you. If I just need to go into my dashboard here, so bear with me all for just a second.
No worries.
I'm going to change presenters here. So Louis, I think you should have control.
Yep. So Jeff, if you could do me a favor and let me know, can you see my Google Doc there?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. All right. So Jeff, as long as you're good on your end and you can hear me and see my screen, just want to welcome everybody to the webinar. We know your time is valuable. And as Jeff had stated there, we're just excited to be able to show you how we, here at TextHelp can help you during this difficult time. I, much like Jeff, I'm a parent. I have a seventh grader and a second grader. You know, my experience in working at a really large school district encompasses many different routes that I took. I taught in elementary school, I taught in middle school, I taught secondary math, as well as did some of that instructional design stuff. And I think it lends itself really well for this particular webinar, because I hope to be able to show you all how you can move and transition from that typical face-to-face learning experience to either a hybrid approach. So I wanted to start off here and literally take about 60 seconds or less and just tell you that most of our customers that are aware of EquatIO and know about its existence, it is and was built on the foundations of being a Chrome extension. So most folks, if you say, hey, have you used EquatIO? The typical answer is yes. I've opened up a Google Doc and I've clicked up here and opened a Chrome extension. You know, we do have a Windows app as well, so we can work in Windows also. But this is generally people's typical response to saying, yes, I've used EquatIO, I know what it is. I was really excited a couple weeks ago when I heard from Jeff, who obviously led this webinar and gave you a great introduction there. He said, hey, Louis, I just want you to really focus on Mathspace. And I was really excited about that because I try not to tell too many people this, but like Mathspace is my favorite piece of EquatIO. Look, I love it all, but I particularly love Mathspace and the things that we can do and the items that we can create within a Mathspace. I'm going to show you all two ways to get to Mathspace. And the other reason why, I will preface this by saying, the other reason why I really love this is because a lot of folks don't know about it. So they're only aware that we work in docs and forms and sheets. So we'll show you two ways to get to Mathspace. The first way is if you click and open from the Chrome extension our menu button, you can have students click right here and enter what we call EquatIO Mathspace. Now, Mathspace is a dedicated web application that opens another Chrome tab. It literally takes you out of this doc experience that you're used to using with your students potentially. I personally use, Chrome bookmarks, so I might star something that I visit all the time, and Mathspace is one of those things that I visit all the time. So for me, I might have as a teacher, if I'm using Mathspace with students, I'm probably just going to have my students visit EquatIO.texthelp.com, and that essentially you'll see I've starred that, I've put that in my Chrome bookmarks because I visit this dashboard so frequently. So, no joke intended. We're going to say goodbye to Google Docs, and we're going to open up Mathspace here. So I just wanted to show you the typical response that we usually get from folks that they're familiar with the Chrome extension, but they're a little bit maybe weak in this area. So I'm going to show you some ways that we can make math and STEM engaging and interactive and fun for students. As Jeff said, there's a little bit of a stigma, right, when it comes to math and science. My own kids, it bothers me, by the way, when they say this. They say math is not my favorite subject area. Of course, it's my favorite subject area. That's why I taught it. So, if you have students that are reluctant to doing math, what if we made math a little bit better than what they're typically used to seeing? And I'm going to date Jeff and myself here by saying, when Jeff and I went to school, you walked into math class, and the teacher said, get out paper and pencil. And that's really been the only way to do math for several years. That is really until EquatIO. I'll be honest with you, I taught in a one-to-one learning environment. Kids had devices, but EquatIO wasn't out yet. I struggled to teach digital math until EquatIO. So with that being said, you'll notice that I've entered my EquatIO dashboard. Again, EquatIO.texthelp.com. And you guys are free to go ahead, and if you're participating, maybe you're just listening, and that's fine too. But if you're participating with me and you're actually in front of your device, I would encourage you to please go to EquatIO.texthelp.com so you can kind of take a peek around. You will be asked to authenticate one time only. So you'll type in either your Google credentials, you can use Microsoft credentials, but once you authenticate, your dashboard should let you in from here on out. So I want to show you a couple things that I've created here to kind of show you the things that we can do and the types of activities that we can offer our students. Now, I'm already going to tell you that a lot of you are probably going to chime into the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and speculate the type of question that might come in as I go through this. You're probably going to wonder, hey, Louie, hey, Jeff, can you send me that Mathspace? Is there a collection of Mathspaces that we can share out? The answer is yes. So I'm going to share some Mathspaces with you all today. So that'll be great. You'll actually leave here and leave this webinar with something, right? One of the things that I wanted to show here is just a variety of K-5 examples. So maybe you're in elementary school, maybe you've heard of EquatIO. I will tell you, before I came aboard at TextHelp, I always felt like EquatIO was only a secondary math tool, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. It can help students all the way down to the kinder level, even pre-K level if we need to go that far. So EquatIO is really for everybody. So I want to show you these examples that I have created here. You'll see that I brought in, right, a pizza crust, and we have some toppings, and we can ask students to show their understanding of the fractions by dragging the toppings over to the pizza pie. So this is just one example, right? Or, look, I taught secondary math. I had kids at the 7th and 8th and 9th grade level, and these students still, some of them struggled with fractions, right? So what can we do in Mathspace to design and build these items? We can open up tools such as our shapes drawer, and we can access all these different shapes that are available for us as teachers or instructional designers, whether it be algebra tiles, whether it be geometry shapes, base 10 blocks for the younger students. Maybe you teach 5th grade and you're doing surface area and volume. Here's some cones, or maybe you have tangrams you want to use with some primary students. We have all sorts of shapes in here. Now you might wonder, hey, Louie, how'd you get that pizza crust in there? You guys really have a pizza pie in your shapes? No, we don't, but we offer our users the ability to click on this button at the top to bring in your own, shapes. Maybe a student loves football. Bring in some footballs. Create an activity to engage students, where typically they might not want to pick up their pencil. They might say, I don't like math class, I'm bored. They don't want to write things down. That's why we offer in EquatIO all of these input methods, because we believe in universal design for learning, and maybe students would be more apt to want to draw. My own personal kids, my kids would draw on an iPad all night if I allowed it. So some kids would love to draw and annotate handwriting here, and I'll show you an example. Like I can make a 2, and it'll turn into a digital 2 over here. So we can allow students to draw. We can allow students to verbally speak their math. And then, as I said earlier, we have all of these shapes and smart shapes, including some STEM tools in here, like a calculator, a periodic table, and a molecular viewer. So all of these different UDL input methods are available to users inside of Mathspace. So with that being said, know that you can bring in your own files. So you can drop in your own GIFs, your own PNG files, and so forth. So that is available to our users. And let me move this down a little bit out of the way so I can close this window. And notice here that I've created some fraction wheels, and let me slide that back over. And notice that on the fraction wheels examples, kids can use the equation editor to answer, hey, I see 3/5 shaded. So they can come over here and do 3/5. And oh, that didn't take. Let me try that again. 3/5. They can actually write out 3/5. See that? We'll make the fraction for the student. Some students might go, hey, Mr. Shanafelt, I see 3/5. Look, we've even thought about that. What if a student starts to type 3/5? We'll make the fraction for them there. So we got lots of different ways we can help students depending on how they see the math in the scenario, right? So I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple more Mathspaces, and I'm actually going to have you guys try a Mathspace with me. I created something special for you today. So we have some volume, we can put these geometric shapes in here, provide the formulas for the students, and then the best thing here really is you know, like I said, we can really work in all areas. Look, I even have gingerbread men in here with some 10 frames, and kids could interact and drag buttons onto the gingerbread men. So that's just one example of ways in which we can create K-5 content in Mathspace. I'm going to show real quick here a middle and high school example. So it's like, I always laugh because I'll look at my Mathspace design and I'll see like trigonometry right next to gingerbread men. And that's a good thing, right? Because we know we can help students all the way up through higher education, or we can even reach the lower students that are maybe 5 or 6 years old and provide them gingerbread men type activities, right? So give this just another second. I don't know if my internet's running a little slow here, but just give that another second. Is there any questions, Jeff or Justin?
Yeah, hey, Louis, there's a couple of questions that have come up.
Yeah.
One of them was, how did you create the stickers? I lost my place here on what the question was, but someone asked, how did you create those various stickers? Or maybe it's those particular images like the gingerbread and the...
Oh, yeah. So yeah, that's an easy one for me to answer. So Jeff, basically, how did I get these gingerbread men? It's basically, I went up to import files and I found gingerbread men that were available to be used out in the open web. So we have to be somewhat careful here, right, guys? Because we put a little disclaimer in here and say, hey, if you're going to bring images in, just make sure you have the authorization to use those images. You may want to Google how to find images on the web that are available for commercial use, because I'm showing you EquatIO, so I can't really give you like a Google search training here, but you are more than welcome to bring in your own content. But we do ask that you try and bring in only content that you have a license to use. So the pizza crust, the gingerbread man, a football, whatever you want to bring in, you just go out to google.com and you search for the types of things that you want to bring into a Mathspace. Jeff, do you have another one before I move on, or?
Let's see here. There was the screen just changed on me here. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, you know what? I think we're good for right now.
Okay. I'll just keep going here. So real quick, guys, look, I know that, not all math is gingerbread men, right? So how do we help the kids that are in middle school, high school? Maybe I'm teaching algebra and I need to give kids notes. Like I kind of came up with this idea of my own, and not to pat my own back, I kind of thought to myself, hey, could we use Mathspaces to share lesson plans and notes with students? Could I design things in Mathspace that would be a shareable object where students could learn how to solve systems of equations? And the answer is simple, yes. By the way, guys, I created all this text with EquatIO. This was all created with the text editor features inside of EquatIO. So I literally built out an entire lesson plan and showed students how to use substitution to solve the system of equations. And then, if you're not familiar, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Lee, I'm going to interrupt you here for just a second, because this question has come up a couple of times here, and this is a perfect example. On your screen right now, you don't have the grid lines and everything on there. So a couple of people have asked, how do you get your background so it doesn't show the grid? So it's just basically a plain white background.
That's a great question. So what's the matter? You guys don't like you like the white space, don't you? So Jeff, that's a good question. I get asked this a ton. I actually didn't know about this until I joined TextHelp, because I never knew you could change the background. By the way, I will tell you that we do have on our roadmap the ability to add in kind of your own background. So hopefully we'll get to that down the road. But customers can go to EquatIO's, the menu button, go to options, and you'll see a different button here than what you see in the Chrome extension. The Chrome extension obviously doesn't have something called space options, but when you click on that, you'll see that I've selected blank. And you guys are probably seeing squared paper, and you saw my white blank space, and you're like, hey, how do you do that? So that is where you're going to go. This will then be your default. So that's a really good question. So thanks for interrupting me there, Jeff, because I'm sure people would love to maybe eliminate that grid paper background. So in conclusion here, look, we have Desmos graphing built right in. So again, we have a partnership with Desmos. Most of you, if you're math teachers, you're familiar with Desmos. We even have like our prediction built right in. So The prediction that you see inside of EquatIO's equation editor is built right into the Desmos API here as well. So really, really good stuff that we can put right inside of Mathspaces. So that right there is an example of a Desmos coordinate plane. Continuing along here, look, here's another example. So I'm moving off of solving systems of equations, although I do love to teach that. You know, what if I want to move a vector, translate a figure? So I can create this type of scenario and build this out in Mathspace. You know, and then I'll move to, actually, I built this for Jeff several weeks ago. Just ironic that it's in this demo, but Jeff had said, hey, Louis, can you, you know, drum up some trig resources for me for a demo he was giving. So look, we can create pretty much anything that you want to create right inside the product. By the way, if there's something that you want to get into the product or something that you don't see that you would love that matches your curriculum, you're more than welcome to click on that menu button, how I told you how to change the background, and click on send feedback, and you are looking at the guy that gets all that feedback. So if you have feedback or you have formulas that you're looking for and you can't locate, just click on that button and that will get you in touch with me right away. So that being said, I think, and by the way, let me show you the rest of my dashboard here. So you'll see all sorts of examples. There's some lattice multiplication. By the way, I think I'm giving out my little secret here. I created for you guys a Pi Day activity today that I would love, love, love for you to fill out for me. So let's move to that. And I'm going to show you all the teacher-student workflow for how to create these Mathspaces. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up this activity that I built yesterday for you all. And I'm going to show you a couple things here before I actually send this Mathspace to you all live in this webinar. So we'll let this Mathspace open. And I don't know, if you're on the East Coast like I am, hopefully I didn't make you hungry. My daughter has a peanut allergy, so I chose peanut butter pie. I never get peanut butter in my own house. So if this is not your favorite type of pie, my apologies again. But I thought we could have a little fun since it's almost March 14th. And usually we'll send out some stuff on our social media. If you'd like some free activities for Mathspace, I'm going to be sending out a bunch of pie information on Twitter. So you might want to check our text help, marketing, and social media channels if you're interested. That being said, I'm going to show you how I created this. Again, go back to the question that Jeff had asked me earlier. You know, how'd you get this pie in here? Well, I went out, found a pie in Google. I brought the pie image in. I also brought these toppings in. And even though these are fairly generic here, I checked to make sure I could use these items and everything seemed to be pretty good there. So I created this chart. How did I do that? So I created this by bringing the image in, by importing the file. I then went here to Smart Shapes and I created a grid. Now notice it's going to automatically by default create this 2x2 grid. So when I click on that though, this is, guys, a Smart Shape. A Smart Shape has lots of options in its menu. And look, I can change this and say, I want my grid to be a 5x3, for example, and I can stretch this grid out and I can make this just as big or as large as I want. So that's how I created a chart. We actually get that question quite a bit too. I wouldn't be surprised, Jeff, if you might have even seen it in there, but in the chat box. But that's how you create a table or a chart. I would go to my Smart Shapes, I would go to my grid, and I would customize that grid to meet my needs for this particular activity. So with that said, I grouped everything together here, and there's got to be some people on this webinar that are wondering, hey, hey, Louis, what is that gray little icon that's next to these items? Well, recently we introduced what we're calling our infinite cloner. Our infinite cloner, if you're familiar with, there's several different types of software out there that allow you to clone an item. This will become important to you as a student. So what I did here is I clicked on my chocolate chip and I toggled on my infinite cloner. Okay, and it's also not because I don't trust you guys, but I locked down the directions and I locked down the chart. Why? because I didn't want you guys to move that stuff around. I wanted to try and keep my formatting and my table in place. Now, why is this important? Because you guys are going to be sending these, hopefully, to students. And you don't want students to move the 3/4 and switch these items around. You want them to answer them accordingly. So I clicked on this and I clicked on lock to lock that. And feel free, guys, you're going to be testing this in just a minute. You're going to be testing this activity because I'm going to ask you guys to now become my students in this webinar. I am going to stay as Louis, the teacher. You guys in the webinar, I'd really love it if you could participate. And I'm going to show you in just 2 seconds how to open up this activity. And you're going to complete this activity and send it back to me. And I'll show you the teacher-student workflow. So before we do that, a lot of people have asked about collaboration. And I will tell you that collaboration is obviously important to us. And we want to make sure that, you know, not only can students collaborate, but teachers can collaborate. So I want you to take a look. I've designed this Mathspace, right? It took me a little time yesterday. I don't want you guys to think, boy, that must have taken Louis, you know, hours to create. It didn't. Obviously, I'm used to EquatIO. I use it every day. Am I going to be a little faster than you? Yeah, probably. But there's a learning curve to every new technology tool, right? And once you get going and building these, this will become super fast for you, I promise. It is really, really quick once you get the hang of it. So watch up here. I'm going to click on share. And this is where we're going to really, really impact you and your students. And I hope that you will love this. So I'm going to show you 2 things here. We give you the option to click right here on this arrow. And I'm going to go over these very carefully with you here. The first one allows you to make a copy for every person. Now, I'm going to play a scenario here for you. Let's pretend that Jeff, your territory sales director there that opened up this webinar, Jeff and I both teach 5th grade, okay? If I'm building this entire Mathspace here, and I'm spending my evenings, maybe my kids go to bed, and I open up my laptop and I build out a Mathspace, why do I need Jeff, who lives down the street from me and teaches down the hallway from me, why do I need him to build this too? Why would we both need to do that? What if Jeff took all the chapter 2 Mathspaces and Louis took all the chapter 1 Mathspaces? In other words, I'm going to build some Mathspaces for my kids. Jeff will be able to use those for his kids, right? We're teaching the same curriculum. So here's how we're going to really maximize our time. And this is how it's really going to benefit you, the teacher. When I click on share and I make a copy for each person, and I click here and I hit continue, this right here can be sent to Jeff. I'm going to send this to Jeff more than likely. Like, I'm not sending this to Jeff through Google Classroom. He's another teacher. He probably is not in my Google Classroom, right? And these other sharing methods probably aren't going to be ways that teachers are going to share either, but they can be. I'm more than likely going to open my email and shoot this email, right? Shoot this link, I'd say. I can copy it, or I can click right here to copy it. And let me show you quickly what that looks like. I'm actually going to switch to another Chrome profile here. And I am going to click, and now I'm pretending here, guys, to be Jeff. So everyone pretend here that I am Jeff. I've clicked on this link in my email that Louis sent me. And this is what Jeff's going to see when he opens up this Mathspace for the first time. Give it just a second here. Got to get my internet checked here, apparently. I don't know, unless things are just a little bit slow here. There we go. Look at this box we have recently introduced into Mathspace. It is saying, hey, Jeff, I recognize that you received this as a shared Mathspace. Would you like to make a copy in your EquatIO dashboard? If Jeff, wants to watch Netflix while Louis working late at night making Mathspaces, then Jeff's going to love the idea that he can just show up to work and click on Save Now. And look, we're going to take this copy, we're going to put it right in his EquatIO dashboard. Then Jeff can share this with his students. It's a great way for Jeff and Louis, who teach the same subject area, to collaborate. It's, again, working smarter here, not harder, right? So that is how teachers can collaborate. Please allow me quickly, I am going to toggle back to my text help account here. And let's go back to a Mathspace that I had open. And let's go back to my share button. Remember, I'll go back over this one more time. This is how teachers are going to collaborate. They're going to click make a copy for each person. This is where we're going to really help you guys as, you know, remote learning instructors, hybrid learning instructors. Even when you're face-to-face, you can use this method. Look right here. We expect a response. Think of this as either classwork, homework, formative assessments. However you want to share these Mathspaces, you expect students to turn these in. So I'm going to click right here. I'm going to click continue, and we're going to generate a brand new link. Now, if you're a Google Classroom customer, you can put this and embed this link right into Google Classroom. Brilliant, right? Real quick, real easy. I can fire that Mathspace right into Classroom for all of my kids. If I'm not a Google Classroom customer, maybe you use an LMS, Canvas, Schoology, D2L, maybe you use another ed tech tool. I don't know. Here's what I need you to know. This link right here needs to be received by your students. I don't care how the students get it. It doesn't matter. However you share content with students, right? So I'm going to take this link and I am going to copy it. And here is what I would love from you all right now is I am going to, and Justin, I'm going to ask, or Jeff, if you can take this link and I am going to paste it here in the chat. I'm going to try to here, Control V. And Justin or Jeff, I cannot chat with the attendees that are in this webinar. So if one of you could be kind enough to take that link and send it, make sure you send it to all the attendees. And for those people that would rather type it in, you can see the link there on my screen. I think it would be a lot easier if Jeff or Justin, once they, yeah, perfect. Thank you guys. If you want to copy and paste that link into a web browser, I would be really ecstatic to show you this workflow. So I'm going to give you all just a second. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pretend to be a student here as well. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in myself. And I'm going to open up that link in the Chrome web browser. We'll give everybody a minute here or 30 seconds or so to get that link open on your side of your device here. And by the way, you know, I didn't answer this. We actually work on tablets. So that was something that, you know, Jeff didn't really say, hey, Louis, drive home the tablets. But guys, Mathspace works on tablets. Our Chrome extension does not work on tablets because extensions don't work on tablets. So no extensions work on a tablet. So you guys, if you have a school or many schools or students that use tablets, Mathspace will work perfectly for my users that are on tablets or iPads. So that's really good news to share in this webinar as well, because we probably have some users that are using portable devices. Now, for those of you that are in the Mathspace, if you're opening Mathspace for the first time, you probably were asked to authenticate, so you might be going through that process right now. I know my toppings here, guys, are a little bit large. So if I told you to put chocolate chips on 3/4 of the pie, you might only get one chocolate chip on one of the slices of the pie. That's okay. Don't take this activity too serious. We're just here to have a little fun today. It's really a way for me to show you the student-teacher workflow. I don't even care if you move any toppings. It doesn't really matter. But what I would really love from you is when you're done with this activity, I want you, oh, by the way, hey, you know what? Since you guys are students, try and click on the directions and see if you can move them since you're a student. You can't, right? Why? Because remember, Louis, the teacher, locked this object. And by the way, this is a good opportunity to showcase the cloning feature. Look what happens when I move the chocolate chip over to the pie. It's cloned. I have basically a stack of chocolate chips, one on top of the other. It's infinite. Students have as many chocolate chips as they needed. So it's a really great feature for primary and elementary kids. It can even be really fundamental and very useful at the intermediate and secondary level as well. So again, totally up to you. go ahead and send over, and actually Justin or Jeff, if you want to have a little fun here and drag some toppings into a pie, I may end up picking on you all for the actual grading of papers here. But don't worry, I'm not here to grade you tough. So just drag some toppings over, guys. Hopefully I've given you some time here. Again, don't take this too serious. We're just here to have a little fun. When you are done.
Louie.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Louie. There's a couple of people that mentioned, and I don't know if this maybe is just them or if this is for everybody, but they seem to be, one is only a read-only copy, and another one says it doesn't let them drag any of the toppings. So I don't know if that's just maybe their setting or.
Yeah, that's going to be on their end, Jeff. So if they are in read-only mode, Jeff, that is basically telling them that they don't have access to submit this because they do not have a premium license for this. There's two things that could potentially cause that. The person that's reporting the read-only copy is potentially the same, well, actually, it's probably going to be the exact same answer for both questions, Jeff. And that is they might have been in Mathspace before. They had a 30-day trial. That trial is now up, which means they're on a free license, and that means they can't submit the Mathspace. Guys, it's a good question, Jeff. I'm glad you reminded me. If you guys can't submit or it says read only, don't worry. This is just really for fun. You won't be able to submit because your license is expired, but that's why we have Jeff and Justin here to maybe once you guys maybe are interested in a pilot or maybe your district purchases, once we turn on your access for premium, you will be able to participate as a student. So don't worry if you can't answer. I appreciate you trying, but that's a great question, Jeff. I'm glad you reminded me. Guys, when you're done, if you could click on that paper airplane, remember as a teacher, what did I see up in the top right corner? I saw a share button, but as a student, I'm not sharing this, right? As a student, I'm a teacher and I share, but if I'm a student, I need to turn this work in. And I did a horrible job on my pie, by the way. It's pretty ugly and it's not correct, and that's okay. So I'm gonna send this and you guys should get an acknowledgement, little pop-up box that says, hey, you shared your work back to your teacher. This is great. That's exactly what I wanted you all to do, and I appreciate you taking the time to send that back to me right now. And close out some of these tabs. And here is my teacher dashboard. So now you're probably wondering, hey, I've done what Louie asked. I completed my assignment. I turned it in. Now, as a teacher, how do I go and look at my submissions? Can I provide feedback? Can I provide immediate feedback? How do I get to Johnny's assignment or Lisa's assignment? Where are all these things stored? And the great answer for this is it's stored right back in your dashboard. Remember, guys, I went to Spaces and I clicked on this and I shared this with you all. If I'm a teacher, what do I need? I need assignments because I created an assignment. So I'm going to click on this tab from my dashboard. And look at Jeff, we have some amazing students in our class today. We have 123 people that were able to turn this in. You guys are my kind of people. You do your homework. So this is
Louie,
awesome.
I think they all want the pie is the problem. So
yeah, right. It is around lunchtime. It's probably a bad idea. So I could have used pizza, but I thought I'd go with dessert. So look, I'm still getting submissions turned in, and you guys are going to love this, I feel. Look how great this is. I mean, for students to be able to drag dessert toppings on a pie, they're not really looking at this as probably math class. They're looking at it as, oh, this will be fun. Look what Mr. Greaves created for our class today, or what Mr. Shanafelt created for my math class today. I got to interact with toppings and desserts, or I got to interact in this way or that way, whatever you guys decide to design. And then watch this. I'm going to click right here. And hopefully you guys are going to be good sports about this. I promise I wasn't going to grade you hard. And look at all these people that turn this in. Oh, there's my friend April. I might be picking on her. So Let's because this is a lot of submissions at one time. It's probably why you're seeing a high level overview here. So I can scroll down and look at this from a really high level. This would be a great way to do a formative assessment, like at the end of class, to be able to kind of see from a high level perspective, hey, who needs more help with this? You know, who needs some assistance here? So these pies should be showing up, but as I've clicked on some hyperlinks today, you'll notice my internet has been a little uncooperative. You should actually, let me refresh this and see if we can't see these pies from that high level overview. If not, that's okay. I'm just going to click on individuals here. Let me go, and while that's loading, let me open another tab. And you don't usually, Jeff, you guys did such a good job with recruiting. We got so many submissions. I don't think it's overheating here on my end on my Chrome tab. That's a lot of turn-ins. So usually we get under 100, but getting this many at one time might be causing the internet even to cooperate a little less here. But give it just a second. Let's open assignments again on this other tab.
Yeah, Louis, that's we have over 200 people right now in attendance. Yeah. So the fact that you got over 100 people to respond is we appreciate everybody's excitement and everything with EquatIO. So thank you.
Yeah, I told Jeff a couple days ago, I'm like, surprisingly, people have been able to respond to this Mathspace, and I'm able to show this workflow. So we really appreciate you taking the time to send this in. I'm going to try and load this from 2 different tabs. You know what, April, you can send me an email later. I'm going to pick on April. And I shared some Pi Day stuff actually with her yesterday. So she'll probably be like, why didn't you share this peanut butter pie? But I can send this over to April. I created this after we spoke. So this is a really good way to now go into the grading and the feedback loop here. April's example here. Notice here that now I'm, as a teacher, I'm on response 7 out of 125. And notice here that I can easily scroll through here by last name and find the particular student that I need. So this is a really, really great thing that I can easily go find a student by last name. Or if I want to provide April her specific feedback, I can just come right here and say, great job, hit the exclamation point, put a score in here. April, not even grading this, but hit send feedback. And look, once they send feedback, it'll fire that feedback right over to April's dashboard so she can check and see what that feedback looks like from her end. So I can then cycle through and go to Ronald, or I can cycle through and go to the next assignment. Now, what I also can do here is return to my dashboard. And remember, as a student, April, for example, will go to her submitted assignments, right? She's going to go to the place as a student where she submitted her assignment to me, Louis, the teacher, and she would then be able to go in and see that feedback by simply clicking on that tile. It's really the only piece of the webinar that I wanted to finish and show you all. I really, really think you'll enjoy this student-teacher workflow where teachers can go in, provide immediate on-the-spot feedback. April could then open that submission, make her corrections, and then send that feedback back to me, the teacher. So
I got one more question here for you. Yeah. And this question is, how do you deal with different class period responses? Does it sort by, say, class period, or do you create the same name, different space for the different classes period? So
yeah, no, really good question there. I think it might depend on how that individual would want to share their Mathspaces. So I will tell you that if you share the one link like I did for the 123 people on this webinar, if you share that with everybody, they'll all come into the same place. So let's say you have 6 class periods or 7 class periods. All 7 class periods would all be collected under the same assignment in the dashboard. So that would be a little bit of a limitation for you. If you want to assign a Mathspace to 6 different classes, you'll want to submit 6 different, I shouldn't say submit, you will want to create 6 different links. That way they'll come in and be collected by period. And if you're using Google Classroom, that would be super easy, right? I would just be able to do that. Question?
One of them was, is there an option to work collaboratively? So can students work in the same math space at the same time? That question actually has come up a couple of different times.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And boy, look, I see the value in that. I do. Look, I was in a lot of your shoes. I was a teacher. I taught for 20 years, as Jeff said, and there's definitely places for collaboration within educational technology products. You know, we at TextHelp, we take student privacy very seriously. So we don't really collect any student data other than the name of the Mathspace, but then that name is literally destroyed before it even reaches the server. It's just de-identified. So currently, unfortunately, we don't have a way for two students to be in the same Mathspace at the same time. One thing you could always do while that loads, let me give you a workaround here. I told you all that we started this with a Google Doc. So let me open up this doc again one more time. And let's see if slowly but surely, boy, this is
and as
open.
that's going, to try to answer the other part of it, there was another one that just came in. Can you collaborate in Jamboard? And I know you just shared with us the other day some things on Jamboard. So
yeah, you guys will definitely want to check out Jamboard. We just recently pushed out an integration with Jamboard. So that's kind of the workaround that I was just going to show you here, is that using our Chrome extension, and now I'm going out of Mathspace here, sort of, right? When I launch my Chrome extension here, still loading, good Lord. Boy, that's frustrating. I'm sure, sorry, Jeff, that I can't get in to show the feed.
That's okay, Louie. You know, we're kind of getting up against the time anyways, but that's okay.
I know.
Don't worry.
I know. So guys, what I was going to show you here in this Google Doc, this is not even opening now. It's inside of our Chrome extension, guys, there's an Insert Mathspace button. So what I was going to show you is, back when I started this webinar at the very, very beginning, and I was in a Google Doc, you'll see an Insert Mathspace button. Here it is right here. Timing couldn't be better. So here's what you'll want to do as a workaround until we and our development team can really focus on Mathspace and see if we can't get away where students could collaborate inside the same space, is you could have students collaborate in the same Google Doc, right? And if they collaborate in the same Google Doc, and you see all the heads up here, 4 students in the same Google Doc, each student could go into Mathspace, create their shapes, their digital manipulatives, and drop it into the Google Doc as just a temporary workaround until we maybe do some more development work on our end. But right now, unfortunately, there is no way for 2 students to be in the same place at the same time. Yeah, I'm going to try. Jeff, I'm going to pass this back over to you.
Louie, thank you very much. I do appreciate the time here this morning leading up to this afternoon here. And I'm just going to go back to my screen here, and hopefully you guys are seeing my screen again. You should see it now because I have clicked on show my screen.
There you go.
Louie, yep. So just a couple of last questions here. Let's see. Yes, we'll make the link available. You guys everyone will get a copy of this presentation. You'll get a copy of the slide deck as well. But Louie, as always, thank you for a great presentation.
You're welcome.
And lastly, folks, I just want to thank Justin as well for answering and helping me answer some of these questions that had come up. We will get all of this over to you shortly. You'll receive this recorded webinar. We'll try and get all those questions answered as well, and we'll provide the links to both the video as well as the slide deck. As always, if anyone has any questions, you can email me directly. If you have any pricing questions or any questions about maybe wanting to get a pilot set up, certainly just send an email off to me, and I can then send it off to the appropriate rep if it's not either myself or Justin. So all, thank you very much. We're right up against it here at 12 o'clock. Enjoy your lunch. Louie and Justin, thank you again. And everybody enjoy the day, and look forward to speaking with all of you again at a later date and time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.